Wholeness and welcome. This is Josh Dippold of Integrating Presence. Today I have Amrit Singh on. Amrit, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
We're just jumping on here. Amrit contacted me on our pod matching service. And so just jumping in here, kind of new, fresh. So what I like to do is I like to just, instead of read a introductionary text, I just throw it back to the guest. So Amrit, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and what kind of work you do. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on my spiritual journey for the last 30 years, since basically started in my teenage years, where I was just interested in more than we could just experience in our normal world. And the first thing which gave that to me was smoking weed. And so that was the first experience with spirituality I have. Unfortunately, as everybody who's tried it knows, it's not sustainable because you end up being stoned all the time and nothing happens in your life. So when I found Kundalini Yoga a couple of years later, it really opened my mind. And I was able to say, like, oh my God, I can create similar spiritual experiences which were much more grounded and more of a foundation to really build up on. And I wasn't stoned all the time. And so I really liked it. But it was really hard for me to do this transition between my old friends, my old life, being 22, 23 years old. It's challenging, especially in the 90s back in the day. And so I decided to move to India. There was a school project there. My teacher at the time had founded the school in India. It was for an international boarding school. And so I was excited about going. And I was like, oh, I'll just go for 6 months, what my visa can do, and just, do some service and help out. And then 6 months turned into 20 years. And so I ended up living there for 20 years. I got married to my Mexican wife, who then moved there with me. And then we had our two children there and raised them in India. And then just recently, we left India with a short stop of COVID lockdown in Germany. Now live in Mexico, in this beautiful town of Valle de Bravo here. My wife is super happy because she's back in her home country after more than 20 years traveling the world. And my kids get an experience of what it means to be connected to their Mexican heritage. And so that's super exciting too.
Very cool. So can I ask where you're from originally then?
I'm from Germany originally.
Okay.
That's where that stop in Germany came from, where we're like, maybe we just stay here. We got a house. My mom had a house for us, and so it was easy. But it was really not for us, where we're not happy.
Thought I determined or detected a little German accent. I'm in Denmark right now with my new girlfriend and partner. So yeah, the 3 month travel visa is coming up soon. So I plan to go to England for 3 months before I can come back in. So we'll see how that goes and stay at a monastery there.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah. So oh, there's so much to pick up on here. I will echo I haven't done much Kundalini yoga, but the very first time I did it with an instructor, he said similar lines, that I guess he was an ex-addict, or maybe not, but he said when I did it, I felt like I was high, like I did when I did drugs. And so that was the draw to begin with. And then he learned, oh wow, this is way much more than just that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big draw. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who are attracted to the extreme approach which Kundalini Yoga offers, just a little different from Hatha or Ashtanga or Vinyasa, just all very soft and very much in the body. And you need to have your Lululemon yoga pants on for it to work really well, right? But Kundalini Yoga is really like, it's right in your face. It has a lot of spirituality in there. It's a lot of religious stuff in there, which can be confusing because people throw it all together and say, oh, I don't want to have a turban on my head. I won't do it. But for me, I came full circle. I lived my life as a Sikh for many years and really would have said to you just 10 years ago, oh yeah, I'm totally a Sikh and that's my religion. But I'm at a new point now where I love wearing my beard, I love wearing my turban, but I don't love being just lumped into a small little box and being like, oh, I'm a Sikh and this is like this and I have to do. I see myself much more as a world citizen. I want to be a member of the world religions. I want to understand Islam and Buddhism just as well as I understand Sikhism and Christianity. And for me, that's more important, to find similarities rather than finding what separates us.
Absolutely. This notion of concord is very important, and religion, I feel, is a good entry point, but at a certain point, it seems like it can only offer so much. Not to look down on it, because I mean, there's so many people that would benefit from being more dedicated religious practitioner, right?
Yeah.
And I also think it's good to go beyond it as well. For some
Very
folks,
much, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it's a little bit like, for me, it was like a scaffolding.
yes.
It really helped me build my foundation and build my tower. And it was this beautiful thing. And it would have only worked with having that structure of the scaffolding. But ultimately, oh, no, you lost your camera.
Ah.
Ultimately, it comes down to when
Mhm.
you want to finish that beautiful building you're working on, you need to let go of the scaffolding. You can't just hold on to what enabled you to build. And then also, there's no judgment in there, right? There's like, the scaffolding is not good or bad. It was just useful for the time it was useful for.
Yeah, it really is a good metaphor, right? And so I want to talk a little bit about your time in India, and I'm going to switch cameras here. Apologies, this is real life, right?
That's how it goes.
Okay. So, um, and uh, well, first off, before we get into that, though, I'm familiar with some of the Indian religions a little bit, mostly Buddhism, though. Um, I want to know a little bit more about Sikhism, though, and also about its ties in India. So just starting completely off from ground zero on it, how would you talk to someone that has no idea what it is? Kind of like me almost. Although, and I will add that I have been to a Sikh temple in Chicago. I don't know if you've been to that one before.
Amazing.
And
No, I haven't.
oh, I was really impressed. It's the energy there is amazing. I'm wondering if I think they powdered up quartz crystal and mixed it in with the concrete to
Oh, amazing.
in the bricks and stuff. And so that's why it was. I could be wrong, but that's what it looked like and what I was getting. And the energy was just off the chart. My buddy, he took a picture and he got some kind of anomaly in this picture. Like part of it dropped out. Maybe I'll include it. If I can
Super
find
cool.
it in my
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, it was
Love
pretty
that.
wild. But yeah, tell me about Sikhism and
Well, so
yeah.
Sikhism is a religion which is young, right? It just was founded 500 years ago. And the founder of Sikhism, which his name was Guru Nanak, he lived in an India in the 1500s, where there was a huge Hindu population. And then at the same time, there was a big Muslim population, because he was living in the north of India and it was connected to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, that whole side. And so there was a big Muslim population kind of melting with the Hindu population of India. And it created problems, because the Hindus couldn't get along with the Muslims couldn't get along with the Hindus. There was all these old rules which were 1,000 years old, and people were not able to interact. But they lived in the same villages together, right? They were neighbors. The teenagers fell in love with each other, and they obviously fell in love with the ones who were most different from how they were, and there was the ones from the other religions. And so there was a lot of problematic social dynamic there. And so in Sikhism, when he started teaching, he actually had his first two followers were a Hindu and a Muslim. And he said, we need to come up with something which works for everybody, which is all inclusive, which includes everybody, which doesn't segregate against women, which puts everybody on the same level. It doesn't matter what caste you're from, like how it is in Hinduism. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim or not, or if you're priest or this. We are all the same. There is one God, and it doesn't matter what name we give him. We call him Allah, or we call him Brahma, or we call him whatever. it doesn't matter because we all come from the same source energy. We all come from this universal connection with the infinite. And let's just come together with something which binds us, brings us together. So Sikhism started as a whole bunch of lifestyle choices. Big thing in there is to sit down and do meditation and do practice to go inwards every day. Another way was, what was really important is to express yourself in the world and say like, hey, I express myself as a religious person in this world so other people can see that, or even I want to change that and say, I express myself as a spiritual person rather than a religious person, because I already had a whole bunch of religious people which had all these limitations, right? But the idea was, let's create something which reminds us that we as human beings are spiritual beings having a human experience on this planet, that we're all the same, that we're all in this together, and let's help out each other. And let's give back to those who can't give to themselves. And let's do selfless service. And let's do things which uplift the community. And so that was for me what inspired me so much, because it was so many lifestyle choices, so many things which really came down to, let's sit and sing together. Let's sit and pray together. Let's sit and laugh together. Let's sit and share meal together. And all these things create experience and effect, which for me, I was missing in Christianity, because I grew up Christian. For me, Christian was going to church once a month on a Sunday and then sitting there being bored, but it didn't do anything for me. No one allowed me to understand it at a deep level. I think today, now that I'm 50, I could probably connect with Christianity and find all these beautiful pieces in it. But because I have an understanding of my own spirituality, and I can see that in Christianity just as much as I see it in all the other religions. But what my practice, in what I learned about the Sikh lifestyle, I rather say, than Sikh religion, really helped me to connect deeper with my spiritual being.
Lovely. So, and you mentioned service too a couple of times, and it's a big part of my path right now too. What can you say in general about service? What, why it's important, kind of the service work that you do. If you have any words of wisdom or advice for other folks who are more service oriented as part of their path.
Yeah, I think that we as human beings, we all have this tendency where we want to serve and we want to give and where we want to uplift those around us. Sometimes it's a little clouded because we say, oh, I just want to serve my own children or my own immediate family or my own tribe or my own party or my own whatever, right? It just always like this little limited thing where we're like, yeah, I'll serve my countrymen, but those people over there, maybe I don't want to serve them. But ultimately, you come to a point where it doesn't matter. You're serving humanity. And through serving humanity, you serve yourself, right? This is like such a beautiful thing Mother Teresa taught us, right? That she was like, hey, I'm the happiest person in the world because I get to serve other people every day, morning till night. And that fulfills me. To come to that point, I think it's just a beautiful thing.
It really is. And there's the ways that I found that to not be in conflict with something. If I'm serving someone or something, it's really hard for me to be in conflict with it. If I'm grateful for something, same thing. How can I be in conflict with something I'm grateful for? And then the other one is a celebration, now,
Yeah.
and at the same time, balancing this with authenticity, not doing it through gritted teeth and, oh, I know I
Mhm.
should do this right. And, oh, I got to do this.
Or
But
with
yeah,
guilt and shame, which is
yeah,
just worse even, all right?
yeah.
Oh, God will hate you and you'll be a bad person and you will not go to heaven if you do not do these things. And then you're like, I don't want to do these things, but I'm doing them because I'm so afraid that God will come down and strike me down with his thunderbolt because I didn't give my 10% of my income, but I didn't want to give it. Like I say to those people, just keep your 10%. God will be okay. Don't worry. And when you're ready, give 1%. But please don't do it out of a feeling of lack. Do
Yes.
it out of a feeling of abundance. And where you say, the more I give, the more I receive. Awesome. I want to receive more, so I give more.
It really is. It's if it comes out of fear, an obligation, then it's not in the right place, and it doesn't really benefit anybody, that I feel. And we can put this to the test too, right? How am I? How do I feel? What are my thoughts before I give, during, while I'm giving, and then afterwards, reflecting on it? And yeah, very
No,
cool
totally.
practice.
And it's something which is universal. It
Mm,
doesn't matter if you're a Muslim or you're Buddhist or you're Christian or you're an atheist.
yeah.
When you come from a place of lack and
Mhm,
fear and shame and guilt, you're not in your authentic self. You're
mhm.
not in your gratitude. You're not in your heart. You're not in your love. You're not in your abundance. And it doesn't matter what religion you follow. And this is like one of the things I feel so passionate about, is like for thousands of years we were so confined in our own countries. No one traveled. Everybody looked the same. Everybody spoke the same. Everybody believed the same things. You know, that's how you survived. You stuck with your tribe. But it's 2023. You know, like we live in this world where like we each have at least 10 or 20 friends from different countries that speak different languages, have different backgrounds, and we understand that there's so much more to this world, and that ultimately we're all the same, and that we all want to be in love. We all want to come from our heart. We all want to express our gratitude and our abundance, and we don't want to live in lack and fear and shame and guilt, because it makes us small. It makes us a shadow of ourselves rather than this bright, expanded version of ourselves. And I think this is where it ties together to what you said earlier. When can I serve the world the best? I serve the world the best when I'm bright and full of light and expanding and overflowing energy, rather than I'm a shriveled small version of myself in fear and guilt because I think my God is going to be unhappy with me because I did something bad yesterday.
It is a really good point, and this is our natural tendency, right? Once the things that obscure and block our heart are out of the way, this is a natural quality of the heart to shine forth like this, to serve, or at least not to to support others who are serving, or and recognize it as a beautiful thing, even if they're on other journeys or paths too. So let's talk a little bit about the practices that you've done, and if you have daily practices besides the Kundalini Yoga or anything like this, or how do you address practices?
Yeah,
Hmm.
for me, I meditate every day. That's kind of the centerpiece of my morning. I make it a point to go to bed early enough so that I can wake up 2 hours before my family gets up, because the house is nice and quiet. I set myself up, I have my nice place, and I really connect with myself, and I go deep and I go into my meditation, and I feel my gratitude, and I just feel my body, and I feel myself, and I feel my presence. And when I do that every day in the morning, my whole day is set. I mean, really, something really has to happen for me to get thrown off my path. But this sets me right for the day. And so I'm like religious, for this use of the word in a different way, about my practice, because it is so important to me. It's so grounding to me. It's like I wouldn't go out of the house without brushing my teeth. So why would I go out of the house without doing my morning prayers and my morning meditation, which is my way of connecting to the infinite?
Yeah, it's this is what the biggest thing we have in common. So I've been daily practice of meditation since May 2012. Haven't missed it. I haven't really met hardly any other people that had such a profound effect the first time I sincerely did it. I was at a low point in my life though too, so it was the bar wasn't very high. So but when I did it, it was like a huge life-changing thing, and I just said, well, I don't have anything to lose. I'm going to dedicate or commit to this as a daily practice, and I have ever since that one time. Yeah. Yes. So, you mentioned a real key point here about it has to be a really challenging day. And so I don't know if anybody's saw your newsletter, or maybe it was on Instagram. You lost a kind of a family member recently, right?
Was my dog, but she
Yes,
is like a family
that's
member
what I
for
mean.
me.
Yes, yes.
And so it was really a big shock, right? I mean, to recognize that and be like, shit, I left the dog behind. And then we went back, we couldn't find her. And yeah, it was a powerful thing. And for me, I realized that's where all these years of meditation practice came came together, where I was like, oh my God, I'm really calm. I can be okay. I can be level-headed. I know that whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, and me flipping out is not gonna make any difference. And so we were able to just make some clear decisions and find her super quickly. And it's
Very
just
cool.
that
This
simple.
this is synchronicity. I was traveling and staying with friends in Florida. Somebody had they had a dog, they had their dog with them, and it just tended to wander away. And it turns out one of the neighbors had grabbed it and just said, "Oh, that's my dog now. I'll just take care of it." And I won't go into details here, but someone else spotted it, and somehow they got word, so they went over to the guy's house, and there was a cop involved too. But he got their dog back, and I can just see how stressful this was for them. And I know it's not quite the same thing because it's not my dog, but these situations around this, I mean. This is another thing meditation can help us with, right? Instead of reacting, we can respond, giving this space for to see more choices, that we do have more choices. Because I know before I started, it was almost like a habitual reaction around things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we all deal with this on a daily basis, you know. A loved one gets sick, or you get this big unexpected bill, or something happens to your house and you need to put a new roof on your house and you can't do it. And you're thinking, oh my God, you know, everything is falling apart. And you can either then run around like a headless chicken and blame the world and blame God and blame everybody and blame your boss and blame the whoever you think you can blame for treating you so unjustly, and sitting there drowning your sorrows in bottles of alcohol. Or you can just come inwards and say, this is the situation, right? We have nothing to eat. This is the situation. We are stranded or we're lost in the desert. This is the situation. Now, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit here and cry and be upset about it? Or are we going to pick ourselves up and deal with it and respond rather than react and make some good choices? And you know, like it says in the Bible, you know, want God to help you, help yourself.
Exactly.
That's what it comes down to.
Yes, and this also brings to mind how men and women traditionally, or the feminine and masculine, deal with this. Um, I would say that sometimes it might be helpful to go in and feel those emotions for a little while, right, and not suppress and deny them. But after a certain point, like you're saying, I personally don't see where that's helpful, right?
Yeah, no, totally.
Because getting caught in that, there's it's just wallowing in the mire of our own pity, self-pity. It
Yeah,
can be but at the same time, it can be helpful to not suppress and deny the emotions around. Because
yeah.
it's okay if we get upset and have emotions too, right? That's one thing I've learned too. But yeah, very
No,
wise.
and there's time and space for that too. You
Yes.
know, it's a little bit like, you know, when you get in a fight with someone, you know, and someone like challenges you and you feel like your adrenaline coming up and your anger is boiling up. That might just be a good time to process your emotion and your anger, but that might end up with you punching someone in the face. So that
Yeah.
might be a better time to suppress your emotion and say, like, I'm breathing long and deep, and walk away from the situation. And then at night at home or the next morning to sit and say, I want to feel this anger now. I want to feel my rage. I want to, you know, like punch a pillow. I want to cry, or I want to process this, but I don't have to do that in the moment where that might mean someone else gets punched because I'm like processing that deeply. So I think, you know, emotions are such a beautiful thing as long as we come back to them and we honor them, you know, it's there's space. There is space for saying, like, hey, right now, I don't need this emotion of anger, but I honor you because I will come back to you. Because I know this has nothing to do with this situation. This is tied down much deeper to my identity, why I feel so angry right now in this moment. And I will come back because I will understand that this situation with this guy who I wanted to punch today had nothing to do with the guy, but has everything to do with me. And this is something I can process. And it's much better to process that while you're on your mat in meditation than on the street with 10 people screaming.
Absolutely. This is another huge one, meditation. This is one of the very few places where we can actually feel murderous rage and it be okay because we're not going to act on it, right?
Exactly.
Because the anger is such a double-edged sword, because I
Yeah.
mentioned this several times, right? Because if we repress it, then it can bottle up and then explode at the worst time, right? There's no
Yeah.
pressure relief valve. At the same time, if it can have this kind of false righteousness of always expressing our anger, right? If we always like, oh, I don't want to repress it, I will need to express it now, and then it just keeps like this self-reinforcing mechanism and self-justification. Oh yeah, I have the right to be angry, it feels good to be gay. But a little bit deeper, when I feel into anger, it doesn't feel good at all. It
Or
feels
it's
harmful.
destructive. That's the
Yeah.
thing, right? When
Yeah.
you really feel into it and you come to the point where you're like, oh, I kind of just want to burn down the house with everything and everyone in it. It's like, that is not a smart choice to approach it. But it is part of the emotion and the feeling, and it's okay to connect to that. And then it gets really interesting when you connect it to your chakras and you really feel it in your third chakra, which is the chakra in your belly region, and you feel that rage there and you feel that heat. And then suddenly you can feel that heat transforming and transitioning and rising into your heart and rising into your love and rising into your compassion. And then from there, rising into your higher centers, into your third eye, into your crown. And you really connect to the infinite. And you realize how your anger suddenly is moving, and it's generating heat which you can use to go out in the garden and dig holes or build that fence or do whatever you wanted to do.
That's
And
right.
now there's some good use to it, right?
Yeah, and it can be totally transformed into power, can be
Yeah.
transformed and transmuted into to power. So it doesn't have to go to waste. Yeah, we can't look at it, oh, great, now I'm gonna angry again. I have to deal with anger again, right? Can actually turn it into an opportunity.
And the most angry people are the most powerful people. They just haven't found a way to channel that energy, and it gets stuck. And like you were saying earlier, it gets bottled up. And now suddenly it's stuck and it gets pushed against itself, gets pushed against life force. And now suddenly this power is not flowing, and this person finds some weird way of self-medicating, and again comes back to drinking tons of alcohol so they can control their thing, or smoking a ton of weed, or doing whatever to just keep a lid on this vast amount of power which wants to boil up and explode. And it's like, come on, this is ridiculous. This is your life force. This is beautiful energy. It just needs to be channeled.
And I think a lot of times it has to do with people feeling disrespected, not honored, not valued enough, like they're not being seen as important. And so this kind of this honor and respect, I feel that I know when I've noticed, I'm looking for it from the outside. And then getting kind of angry that I'm not getting it or perceived as, important enough or something like this, right? So when I go inside that and say, well, I can honor and respect myself and give myself, worth and value in this, because I'm never going to get it to the degree that I need and want outside myself. So it has to
Yeah.
come from
And
within. Yeah.
totally. And you won't get it for punching the guy in the face or
Yeah.
burning
Yeah.
the house down, where
Yeah.
you realize, oh my God, that was really stupid. I did this. But you will get it when you sit on your mat and you say, I'm here. I'm honoring this anger. I'm allowing this. And you can feel into it. And you, like you're saying, give that to yourself.
Yes.
And now suddenly you're integrating this shadow aspect of yourself. You're integrating this thing which we tend to, oh, let me not look at this because that's bad, right? Anger is bad. Aggression is bad. Having sexual thoughts is bad, right? These kinds of things. But if you can really connect to those shadow and dark aspects of your wholeness, now suddenly you can show up authentically. You can show up complete. You can show up as your whole self. And you can say, yes, I get angry sometimes, but I know what to do. And I know I will not punch someone. Yes, I get weird sexual thoughts sometimes, and I know what to do with that. I know I will not just react and go act on that and assault someone on the street, but I will deal with this. And most importantly, I will not judge, shame, or put guilt on myself for having this be part of my identity. But I will give that space and honor that. And now suddenly it will not have the power over you. It has when you're sitting in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep and looking at porn and feeling shame and guilt and feeling horrible around it, right?
Yeah, and that's a whole nother ball of wax too that I feel is taboo for some good reasons, but other reasons it needs to be brought out in the open. Because to break some of the taboos and help men, especially around this, but maybe for another time. This honoring and respecting, I feel is very important for sure. And with the feminine, it seems more value and validation comes in a bunch too. So now, tell people a little bit about your coaching work, and I also interested to hear some kind of maybe a little summary, because we're running out of time here, about India. Your time in India, kind of what you learned, or anything you'd like to say about that.
Well, India was exceptional in so many ways. I mean, it was a little bit like, going on a pilgrimage and living in a forest for 20 years and then coming back. Obviously it wasn't like that. We had nice houses and running water and everything, but it was so challenging on so many levels. But it was also so deeply spiritual. I mean, just being in India, just being in this environment, being in a country where people have been meditating and praying for 5,000 years and connecting with their foundation, connecting with their higher chakras. I mean, just such a beautiful place to be and feel and learn about yourself and learn about these techniques. And so I would strongly recommend to anyone who is on a spiritual journey to say, go spend a couple months in India, find a quiet place, find a monastery, find something where you can connect with people who practice and live spirituality every day, just to get a different view on life. I mean, it's exceptional.
Beautiful. So you're a coach too. So tell people a little bit about your coaching work.
Yeah.
And then I think we're going to start wrapping up. And then once you speak about your coaching work, tell people, what you would like to leave people with, what message. I like to the standard question of, what is the most important thing in existence right now, both short term and long term. Like, what's really important, and then tell people how they can get a hold of you, and kind of what kind of projects you have going on. If you have any workshops, books, seminars, these type of things.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yes,
So
it is. So
I'll start right off the top.
Sure.
What the coaching is like. The reason I love working as a life coach so much is I really feel I'm in the dream creation business, right? Because I work with people, they share their dreams, they share their goals with me, and then I assist them to get there. And it is such a beautiful work. You see someone who's like, yeah, I have this big idea and I really want to do this amazing thing, but I don't really believe in myself. And I have all these fears and insecurities and blocks and things which keep me small. And then just through me showing up for them, through me assisting them, through me, just nudging them on a little bit, these people suddenly start doing amazing things, turning their relationships around, making more money, start working in their dream jobs, doing amazing things, improving relationships with their kids. I mean, it is so fulfilling. It's such an amazing thing. I mean, I would do it for free if it would work that way. Unfortunately, it doesn't, but I love it so much. And it's really been like such a blessing for me to be able to make a living like that.
Beautiful. So,
Yeah.
so what do you have coming up? What do you want to draw people's attention to? What do you find the important question? I know it's a big question. I would just say I don't know is totally okay too. With what's the
Yeah, I mean,
most
I have a
important?
couple of things.
Sure,
Obviously, you can always find me on my website.
sure,
It's coachingnow.info. I'm sure we can just add it in the show notes so we don't have to
sure.
go into
They'll be in the show notes.
details.
Yeah.
And then my favorite thing these days is TikTok. I've been posting every single day on TikTok. I know there's people who hate TikTok and people who love TikTok. If you're one of the people who listens, who loves TikTok, find me on TikTok. It's so much fun. I use little clips from these podcasts I do, and I just love sharing through TikTok. So I spend a lot of time there. And then another thing coming up on April 3rd is I have a 1 week course, which is an hour a day. It will be recorded. The recording will be available for download for people who can make that time. So I got a lot of questions around that. This course will be centered around the basics of Kundalini Yoga and meditation, because really what I realized is a lot of people want to learn more, but they don't know where to start. They don't know what's the first step in. So what we're going to be talking about is, how do you prepare for meditation? How do you use yoga as a tool to go deeper in meditation? How do you use breath to really connect to your being? And just, I want to leave people with some really simple, basic tools they can implement right on the first day, and that can make a profound change in their lives in 15, 20 minutes a day.
Beautiful. Amrit Singh, thanks for joining, and may you all find all your dreams and fulfill all your spiritual goals and aspirations. Be well.